Hi everybody, I'm John Shutsky, a faculty member at the University of Wisconsin in Madison, and I'm in Biological Systems Engineering, or BSE. I teach one of our required courses, BSE 308. This class is titled Career Management for Engineers. The class is required as part of our ABET accredited curriculum, and it also attracts students from a number of other programs, including electrical, civil, biomedical, mechanical engineering, and we also draw students who are studying programs like business or computer science. We're offering some of our 308 lectures with the permission of our guest speakers as professional development for those of you who are out in the working world and as a way also to support and market our class. This lecture was done by a friend and colleague, Mary Pat Tubb of John Deere. Mary Pat is currently the general manager of John Deere's Davenport Works, and for me, she's also a former student, having graduated from Minnesota's Biosystems and Agricultural Engineering program at the time that I was a faculty member back in 1998. Mary Pat will be sharing with you some of her experiences and the things that she has learned in her 25-plus year career with Deere. She also answers questions that are posed by my students at the end of the video, which we will also share with you. So whether you're thinking about joining us in BSE 308, or you're a current student in the class, or if you are in your engineering career as a new person or a seasoned and experienced veteran, I'm sure that you will enjoy what Mary Pat has to say. Over time, by the way, we're going to be adding to our collection of speaker videos, and I hope that you'll find them to be useful. So with that, let me introduce you to my good friend, Mary Pat Tubb.
My name is Mary Pat Tubb. It's great to be here with you all. I am a UW alumni. I graduated from what used to be called the Masters of Engineering and Professional Practice in 2005. That program has been renamed a couple of times. To be honest, I can't remember what it's called right now, but it's definitely it's a program through the College of Engineering that allows people to come back and earn a master's degree. It's a bit of a hybrid between kind of an engineering degree and a business degree. So it's a fantastic program. Once you graduate, highly encourage you to consider that option. So, but I am originally from Plain, Wisconsin. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of Plain, Wisconsin. Maybe if you're from Wisconsin, you have heard of Spring Green. That's where I went to high school. I went to River Valley High School. Perhaps some of you, if you're from this part of the state, had to go to American Players Theater for English class in high school. All of that is where I originally grew up, and my family, who are sitting in the back there, are on spring break this week, and we have a cabin in another town near there called Lone Rock, Wisconsin, and my mom is still in Plain, and so we tend to spend some holiday time at our place in Lone Rock, and had planned to be here for spring break. And so when Professor Shutsky said, hey, you said you'd come in person sometime, how about the 22nd? So happens to be we're going to be there. So so great to have you, or great to be here, and just wanted to explain a little bit why my family is here with me today. Okay, so I work for John Deere. That's the only place I've ever worked since I graduated college. My bachelor's is actually from the University of Minnesota. I'll talk a little bit more about that. And that's where I met my wonderful husband, Derek, who is from Duluth, Minnesota. We went to college there together, and have been together ever since. So when I graduated, I started work at John Deere. So this is my 25th year at John Deere. And I'll talk to you about my career history, but want to talk to you a little bit first about my current job and what I do. And I'm general manager at the Davenport Works factory. And so thought I would start my presentation with a bit of a virtual tour of that factory and what we do there. And then we'll spend the rest of the time kind of talking about the other jobs that I've done at John Deere and maybe some things I've learned along the way. Should have plenty of time for questions at the end. And if you have any questions in the meantime, feel free to raise your hand and interrupt me. So mean for this to be casual and interactive if you like. So. Okay, so want to start with this product. It is a 944K. It is the largest product that John Deere builds. Now, there are several factory managers at John Deere. Factory managers tend to be slightly competitive. That's a personality trait that most of us have in common. And so if you talk to other factory managers, they will say, yeah, it depends on how you measure. And I will tell you there is only one way to measure how big a product is, and that is by its weight. Not by horsepower, not by size, but by weight. And this tractor, or this machine, is 125,000 pounds. So it is a very large machine. And if you are sitting in the cab of that machine, you could look in somebody's second story window. So it's an incredible machine used typically in mining applications and quarry applications. So until I started working at Davenport Works, I didn't really know much about these types of customers. I've always been on the ag side. And now that I've been working there, I realize that there are quarries everywhere. So everywhere, when you're driving down country roads, you see off to the right or the left, eventually you'll probably see a quarry, and you could potentially see one of these machines picking up rock from the face of the quarry and taking it to a crusher. The other really cool thing about this machine is that it was one of the leading machines to have hybrid electrification technology in it. So it's been a hybrid machine for over 10 years, so kind of electrified before electrified machines are really even cool. So each of these machines, or each of the wheels has an independent electric motor in it. And what that allows is for the machine to ratio the transmission more evenly as an operator is driving it. So a common problem with operators, as they are, especially they're new or inexperienced, as they're driving into the pit face, they tend to spin those wheels. Each of those wheels costs $10,000 to replace. Each of those tires costs $10,000 to replace. So with the electric motors, the machine can control that slip, even if the operator isn't doing a good job of controlling it. And that means that the owner will get 30% longer life on the tires of that machine. So $40,000 delayed 30%. That gives us a good advantage over the competition, right? The other thing, it delivers 30% fuel savings. Not a surprise. I mean, you hear a lot about it. That's what hybrid technology is delivering on a lot of vehicles. And then the other thing it does is it helps with the rebuild costs. So these machines are meant to last a long time. So after 10,000 hours of driving, which is probably 8 to 10 years, a company will tear down the machine, rebuild it with a new engine, new axles, new transmission, all of those parts, and then put it back to work for another 8 to 10 years. And the relife cost, because of the electric motors in the axles instead of a traditional rack and pinion axle, costs about $70,000 less than the competition to relife this machine. So pretty incredible machine, delivers a lot of technology, definitely leading in its class, and I'm obviously very proud that we get to build it at Davenport Works. And by the way, if you wanted to purchase one of these machines, it would cost you about $1 million. Okay, so I also wanted to just talk a little bit about John Deere in general. So a lot of people, when they think about John Deere, they think about green and yellow machines, right? They think about tractors and combines and planters, all that really awesome, wonderful equipment. John Deere has been in business for about 190 years and has been on that ag side of the business. And in 1935, we were working with a customer called Lindemann in the Pacific Northwest. They were an apple farmer, and they took one of our Waterloo Boy tractors and put crawler-type tracks on it. And we said, hey, that's a pretty good idea. They needed it for their specific application, and we said, hey, that's a pretty good idea. We purchased Lindemann, and shortly thereafter started building crawler-type tractors in Dubuque, Iowa. So most of you probably know where Dubuque, Iowa is, just over the border. We still build crawler-type machines there today, and a lot of them go into industrial and earth-moving type applications. And in 1974, we had outgrown that footprint, and Deere said, hey, you know, it's kind of nice for us to have this diversity in our portfolio. And, you know, because agriculture is such a cyclical business and our company is so dependent on that, it would be nice for us to have some diversification in our portfolio. So we added the construction and forestry division, and we outgrew the footprint in Dubuque, and Davenport Works was started in 1974. So at that time, about 400,000 square feet under roof and about 100 employees. We started with our first wheel loader, purpose-built wheel loader in 1976. We still build those today. We had our first log skidder in 1980, and I'll show you the rest of our portfolio that we've added since then. 50 acres under roof today, 2.2 million square feet, so it is a large place. We're vertically integrated. That means we make our own components when it comes to the steel structures. So we cut steel, we weld steel, we bend steel, we machine it, we paint it, we assemble it. We don't do any drivetrain components. So I don't build engines, I don't build transmissions, I don't build, and I don't build anything like plastic parts like wire harnesses or side panels or interior cab components. But if it's a steel structural component, we build it at Davenport Works. Today there's about 1,300 employees, this give or take, depending on what's happening in the industry. But this is about two times the size of the town that I grew up in. It's crazy for me to think that I work with that many people every day. So a lot of people like to know, where do we sell our products? So you can see most of my products are sold here in the U.S. and Canada, about 90%, some maybe 80% in the U.S. and Canada, 10% in South America, and then you can see, some of the other areas. Of course, this is a little outdated. We aren't selling anything into Russia right now, which is unfortunate. But then you can see where we are the rest of the globe. So still, at least from a construction and forestry perspective, have a lot of room to grow from a global perspective. The ag machines, combines, tractors, etc., much more global than what we have been in earth moving side. Okay, so the products that we build. So the upper left corner, that is a motor grader. So motor graders typically used in road building construction. So these machines are becoming more and more technically advanced. They are incredibly difficult to drive. It used to be that only a 20-year operator would be able to drive one of these machines because they would have the most expertise and skill. So it used to be there were 5 or 6 levers on each side of the cab that operators would control the lift of the blade, the angle of the blade, the tilt of the blade, and then you can also control, there's a camber on those 2 front wheels, so you can control the angle of the wheel, not just the direction that it's turning. So many different functions on that machine, and as we were adding more and more technology to our products, we were automating more and more of that. So now, I told you it used to be 20 years before you could drive the motor grader. Now you can do it after 6 months. So that's the way we're trying to add value for our customers by automating their work. So Professor Shutsky, you're talking about, I see in your LinkedIn post, all the risk assessments and safety that comes along with that. Certainly something that we do as we're developing these products and working with customers to make sure that that as we do that automation, it's not going to put employees on a job site in danger, that it's going to keep them safe. The next one is an articulated dump truck. So those are typically, you see those on anywhere that somebody needs to haul away a lot of dirt and there isn't an asphalt or a concrete road, right, where there isn't an improved road for the truck to drive on, you would use an articulated dump truck. So if somebody's clearing a mass site for a new housing development or a hospital or a shopping mall, you're going to see these working alongside an excavator to clear away soil and dirt. Next up is the loaders. I already talked a lot about the 944. We have 2 other families of loaders. Another one is called a production class loader. It also works in a quarry. Typically takes it from, the 944 would put it into the crushing operation. The production class loaders take it out of the crushing operation and load it into the customer's truck to drive away. And then there's a utility class loader. So utility class loaders are called utility class for a reason. You'll see them in any number of functions. So you'll see them in dairies sometimes. You'll see them in a municipality. You'll see them in any kind of earth moving site. You'll see them in a waste handling operation. You see them everywhere. So that's utility class loaders. And the bottom are 2 forestry products. So sometimes we say we have farmers too. They just have a much longer growing cycle. So our customers that use our forestry machines. These are 2 of the machines that they would typically use. They have many others, but these are the only 2 that we build. The one on the right is called a wheel feller buncher. It has a blade that's maybe 36 inches in diameter, and it spins and can cut down trees in a matter of seconds. And then it has these hydraulically operated arms that kind of close in on the trees, turn them 90 degrees and lay them down in a bundle, and then this is called a log skidder, and it pulls the machines out of the forest to the road so that they can be hauled away to the mill. So very diverse factory, very diverse set of customers that we serve. Okay, so what do? I told you we cut steel. So we cut steel in 3 different ways. We have plasma cutters, we have oxy-fuel cutters, and we have lasers. So lasers are the thinnest but the most precise. Oxy-fuels are the thickest but the least precise. So our oxy-fuel machines can cut steel up to 9 inches thick. They don't do that every day, but we sure like saying that they can, right? They're pretty cool machines. We do cut all day, every day, 2.5 inches thick. We go through about 200 tons of steel every day in our factory. Sometimes I think about, cutting steel. If you ever make cookies and you roll out the dough and you cut these flat shapes, sometimes we got to take the shapes and we got to turn them into 3D shapes. So this is a picture of a gentleman using a bend brake. So that machine's going to come down and put an angle in that piece of steel. From there, it goes into a kitting operation. So the welders turn around to a cart. They pick just the pieces that they need for that operation. They put it in a fixture, fasten it down, and then they tack weld that all those puzzle pieces into like the 3D puzzle shape. From there, it goes into a robotic welding operation. So the type of welding we do at Davenport Works is incredibly difficult. It's out of position most times. It's multi-pass. One of our weldments takes up to 13 passes with a weld torch. And a lot of it is really long and sustained welding. So especially those really long and out of position welds, we leverage robotic welders for that. And we're doing more and more automation in the factory every day. So we have over 50 robot arms in the factory, and we use 10,000 pounds of weld wire every day. So nobody at John Deere welds more than we do, and we're clearly very proud of that. From there, it goes into machining. So this is a loader frame. And so you can think about a machining center as just a big drill, and it's drilling holes into that loader frame. And those are so precise. They're precise within the width of a human hair. And that's so that as the flag pins go in and adjust or attach the boom to the loader frame, or the bucket to the boom, or the loader frame to the tractor, the less slop we have in all of those joints, the less shaking the operator is going to experience, and the longer the frames are going to last, right? So that allows us to have that level of precision, allows us to have better customer experience of the product and a longer life, longer durability of the product. From there, it goes to paint. So we have two types of paint system, a manual and a robotic paint system. We can paint construction yellow, forestry green, black, and gray. Fun stats in here, 45,000 gallons of paint used every year. All right, assembly. After that, each one of those products I showed you has their own assembly line, and depending on how many we're building per day, is staffed accordingly. So anywhere from 20 to 75 operators that work together to put together the products. So it's pretty incredible every day to be able to see these raw sheets of steel come in, and then out the back end you see completed vehicles. Okay, 125,000 parts consumed every day. We also do a lot of testing and verification, and here again is another place where we're using a lot more technology than we ever have before. It used to be every one of our torques applied, and I don't know, there's thousands per vehicle. Every one of our torques was manual, and relied on the operator to make sure that they did it the same way every time, and that they always used a clicker wrench to verify the torque. Now those clicker wrenches are connected by Bluetooth to our manufacturing execution system, and if that proper torque is not delivered, the machine will not advance to the next workstation. So those are the types of things we're doing every day. We just started a couple of years ago working with CVML technology in the factory. So, we had a long-standing problem on our cab line where when we assemble the cabs, we put them in a fixture and then tilt the cab so that operators can work on the cab. They can install wire harnesses, air conditioning lines, what have you, right? And so it's just easier ergonomically for them if the cab is kind of tilted. And every once in a while, probably once a year, somebody would miss in connecting that cab to the fixture. And so the fixture would tilt and the cab would slide off. We luckily never had any injuries, but every time it was a near miss. And, we'd go back and we'd train somebody and try to take some administrative way to fix that. Now we paid $250 for a Raspberry Pi camera. It's in the ceiling. It knows if the pin is there to lock the cab in place or not. And if it's not, that cab fixture won't tilt. So using lots of technology in new ways very quickly to solve problems that we've never been able to solve before. We are becoming more and more digital from the way we are trying to solve customer problems. John Deere is all about smart industrial. This is our strategy. How do we deliver more products more process improvements to the customer instead of just products, right? It used to be we innovated a lot by adding horsepower, having more efficient transmissions. It's less about the hardware these days than it is about how do customers better use those products. One of the really cool products we have, maybe you've heard of it, is called See and Spray. So again, we're using that same type of machine learning, computer vision application where as the sprayer is going through the field, it has cameras on it, and it knows if a plant in the ground is a weed or if it's a good plant. And if it's not a weed, it's not going to spray, right? So it used to be that a sprayer would just nozzles on the whole way back and forth across the field. Now those nozzles only activate when the sprayer sees a weed. So using a lot less chemical than ever before. So more and more of those types of solutions is what John Deere is moving towards. One of the greatest things for me about being in manufacturing is just the responsibility to the workforce that works there, right? My job every day is to make sure that we maintain our competitiveness, that we are the best place to build the products that we build, so that the people that work there have a place to come back to work the next day, right? And so just workforce development has been a passion of mine for a long time, and this is our first class of welding apprentices. So maybe, I don't know if you guys talk about this in school, but labor availability for us, for our customers, that's just a continuing challenge. Like, kids grow up today, and I don't know, probably nobody took you on a factory tour when you were in high school, right? Or when you were in middle school. You didn't know what manufacturing was like. I didn't, right? And nobody in my family worked in a factory. I'd never toured a factory. They're pretty cool places, right? So we're trying to do a lot more with attracting kids, or at least helping them understand, hey, this is an option for you. One of the other ways we're doing that is with a formal apprenticeship program through the state of Iowa. So these kids go to school half a day, and then they come to the factory and they weld half a day. When they finish high school, they can come straight in the factory and start work. So and they're at 18 years old, first year out of high school, going to make about 80 grand. So pretty good job for these kids. This is just some more outreach activities that we're doing with kids. We try to get them in middle school to come and take a tour. They get to apply torques. They get to assemble and troubleshoot an electrical circuit. They swage pipes with some plumbers. So pretty cool opportunity for them to just experience this type of stuff. Okay, so just wanted to spend the rest of the time here talking about kind of my, what have I been doing the last 25 years, and how did my career develop, right? So, you can imagine me. This is me with my gold tassel at the University of Minnesota, graduating, and I felt like at that time the career development office at the University of Minnesota told me, okay, you need to go in on day one of your job knowing what your endpoint is going to be, what you want to be when you retire, and then you need to put a very logical line of sight, career progression to what you're going to be when you finally retire. I had no idea, right? I was scared to death because I really didn't know. I got this engineering degree. I think John Deere's kind of cool, but I didn't even know what types of engineering disciplines there were, right? I just wanted to do my job and learn and do a good job. And so the idea of knowing what I wanted to do 30 years from 1998 was actually a little bit stressful for me because I had no idea. And people would ask me, and I'm like, I don't know. I want to get good at this job first, right? So, and I would tell you, like, if you think you want to be CEO of John Deere, this is absolutely what you should do, right? You should talk with a lot of people that have very, advanced careers. Ask them what they did. Try to put together a plan. Figure out when you're going to go back and get your MBA. All of that kind of stuff, right? But I will also tell you that if you want to be a general manager at a John Deere factory like me, my career plan looked a little bit more like this, right? And I tell people it looked more like a mountain range, right? And I didn't even know what other mountains were out there until I got to the peak of the first one, right? So this, being at the bottom of that first mountain peak, and how could I couldn't even see over it. How would I know what other opportunities there might be? But, this has happened several times in my career where I've kind of gone up and the whole way up was like, I don't know, I don't think I want to do anything else. And then I get to a point where I'm like, wow, that looks pretty cool. Maybe I would like to try that. Or maybe that would be interesting. And so then sometimes I've in my career stepped backwards a little bit so that I could go up a different way. And then you kind of see that, in this mountain range doesn't just go west, it goes to the southwest and the northwest, right? So there are lots of other opportunities, and it would have been helpful for me when I was your age for somebody to say to me, it's okay if you don't know exactly what you are going to do in 30 years, but get started, right? Get started, be interested, try a bunch of different stuff. Okay, so this is how I started, right? So this is University of Minnesota, you know, at the time, I actually started when I was in college. I was going to be an environmental engineer, and you know, I wanted to be out hugging trees and kind of save the planet. And as I got to take more of my upper level classes, it was a lot of modeling of water flow through soil and a lot of time behind a computer. And I thought, man, this is not what I want to do. And so I was in ASABE at the time, and we took a tour of John Deere Tumble Works because there were some University of Minnesota alumni that were there. I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. And so I thought, well, you know, maybe I can change my emphasis to ag machinery. So I came back, I took a couple of machinery classes, and when I was graduating from the University of Minnesota, the professor there that was the kind of the counselor for many of the students had been working with one of the engineers that was the head of the field test department in Waterloo, Iowa for John Deere tractors. And they got a test tractor for us to work on, and so he sent a thank you note with the resumes of the graduating seniors, and lo and behold, they called me and said, would you like to interview? And I said, sure. And next thing I knew, I was moving to Waterloo, Iowa, and I was a field test engineer. So I didn't grow up on a farm. I didn't and I think I told you, you know, nobody in my family was in engineering, and in fact, when I was a kid, when I was, you know, my daughter Lena's age, I wanted to be a doctor. That's all I wanted to be. And I, you know, from age 8 to age 17, and then I took anatomy and physiology in high school, and I despised it. It was the worst class I'd ever taken, and I was in a panic because I was like, I don't even like this class. How could I actually go into the medical field? And I had a great teacher at the time, and he said, well, Mary Pat, I think you should be an engineer. And I looked at him and I said, you want me to drive trains? Like that, to me, that's what engineers did, right? They drove trains. I didn't know anybody that was an engineer. So, and he said, you know, you seem to like math and science. You'll be able to get a job. Go be an engineer. So that's what I did. Anyway, so found my way to kind of Deere through this path, and so, you know, started as a field test engineer. So my job at the time was to I was working on a couple different projects, and one was developing drive control strategy for infinitely variable transmissions. So, you know, the software engineers would give me a stick of software, and I'd go plug it into the tractor and drive it through a bunch of different paces, and come back and tell them what I felt, what I saw, you know, give them a data trace, that kind of stuff. The other job I had was working on auto steer. So we were working on steering our tractors with GPS. At the time, I thought, this is never going to happen. And, you know, 5 years later, it happens. It happened. And now for a lot of our customers, it's a downtime failure if their auto steer is not working. So I honestly found that job incredibly stressful. So I told you I didn't grow up on a farm. You know, I didn't have a lot of experience. I was working next to a lot of people that had been doing the job for 20 years and felt just really inadequate a lot of the time to be able to say on behalf of all the farmers in the world, yes, this software is okay. Go ahead. You know, really put a lot of pressure on myself, and I think stressed myself out a lot. And at the time, I actually even considered writing a letter to the university, to the dean of the College of Engineering at the University of Minnesota, to tell him, hey, you are doing a terrible job preparing students for their first jobs. Because I got really good grades, and I am not good at this job. You know, luckily I had some phenomenal coworkers that kind of sat me down over coffee, and they're like, Mary Pat, you go to college to learn how to learn, not to learn how to do a job, right? You're learning how to do the job here. And don't, if you're not perfect at it out of the gate, nobody expects that other than you, right? So, the important thing is that you keep trying, you keep learning, and you continue to get better, right? So that was a good experience for me. So really spent a lot of time behind the wheel of a tractor. I got to go to test sites. I got to work a lot with customers. Incredible way for me to learn a lot about the products, the people, the culture of John Deere, and what we do. Okay, so then, after I was on probably a product development track at that time, and so if you're going to be in product development at Deere, you need to spend some time as a design engineer. So I went and I was a design engineer, and I developed a new. I developed a frame for a tractor, and worked with FEA, and I didn't do the FEA, but I would give it to the FEA engineer and say, okay, I want to move this bolt hole here. Is it too close to the sidewall? He'd do the analysis, and I would take it, give it to the supplier, and say, can you make this? And they would say yes. And it was probably my first foray into project management type work, where I had to have this design ready by a certain date so that the tractor could go into production. And working through all that process was very interesting. I liked the project management aspect of it. I will tell you the design side of it, I didn't really care for. And I think that's where I kind of had a reckoning with myself that, okay, I'm not going to be the kind of engineer that has a lot of patents, right? That's not going to be the type of engineer I am. I like to solve problems, and I like to work with people, and I like to get things done. But the idea of coming up with new ways to solve customer problems, at least in this application, was just not my thing. This was also the time when I went back to the University of Wisconsin. So, I had a lot of friends at work that were getting master's degrees, and the trend was kind of either you get an MBA or you get a true master's of engineering. And a true master's in engineering was not what I wanted to do. So I did this Master's of Engineering and Professional Practice through the University of Wisconsin, and it was fantastic. So, and Derek would tell you, I really never really adjusted to becoming a Gopher. I probably always cheered for the Badgers, even when I was at Minnesota. So, he would tell you I probably went back for that Master's just so that I could officially be a Badger, and he's partially right. So. So and I think so that's the an honest woman there. And I think this is when I was kind of getting to maybe that first peak in the product development track, and I said, boy, this is not where I belong, right? I don't really like this type of work. Not sure it really likes me. And a guy from the factory, that I met through New Product Build said, hey, how would you like to come to the factory and try out quality engineering? Sure, I'll try it. So I went into the factory, and I tell people this is where I'd been at Deere probably 5 or 6 years at this point, and this is the point where I felt like I wasn't just getting paid to learn. I was actually providing value for the company. Like I actually felt like I was earning my paycheck for the first time. So for the first time in my career, I could see problems everywhere, and I could think of ways I wanted to solve them. And I loved the idea of working with the people on the shop floor, leveraging all the great people I worked with in product design and product development, working with suppliers to say, okay, let's fix this quality problem, make it go away, get on to the next thing, solve that safety problem, make things better for the operator. So, and I just fell in love with the factory environment, right? And I felt like, I love being in the floor. I like the pace of it. I like the way the factory smells, right? I just belong in the factory and felt like I belong there. So I think, a lot of things I learned during this time was just the pace of it was much different from product engineering, and I had to get used to that. And I was a quality engineer for a while. I was a project manager for a while, and then I went to be a production supervisor. And the operations manager at the time said to me, okay, Mary Pat, what do you think is going to be your biggest challenge in the factory? And I said, I'm 30 years old. I'm going to go out and tell all these 50-year-old UAW guys what to do, and they're not going to like it. And he said, no, that is not going to be your problem. And he was absolutely right, actually. I mean, they didn't care if I was male, female, black, white, blue, purple, what my gender was, anything, right? They just, if I was going to help them solve problems and get things done, I gained their respect. It took me about 2 days, and they knew that I wanted to listen and work with them. Phenomenal experience working with the folks on the floor. So he said, no, that's not going to be your problem. Your problem is going to be you're going to have to make 100 decisions a day. You're not going to have perfect information to make all those decisions. You're not going to have all the data that you want. You're going to have to make 100 decisions. 50 of those decisions are going to be wrong, and I'm going to yell at you for it. Oh, that is going to be hard for me. And initially it was very hard for me, right? I didn't like failing. But eventually I realized that it was the most autonomy I'd ever been given in my career up to that point. Incredible responsibility to build my products safely every day, make sure nobody got hurt, make sure we built them in good quality, and make sure we built the right number of them every day. Every month end, every fiscal quarter end, I felt like people are counting on me to make this happen, counting on me to to deliver. And so the freedom to fail and not be micromanaged in that. And yeah, okay, I got yelled at every once in a while because I made the wrong decision, but to also have the autonomy to be able to figure out what to do to recover from that decision was great, right? And it's something that I've come to really crave in my job. And when I don't have that, I get frustrated at work. So was really scary at first, but became awesome and something that I love. And then from there, I became an ME supervisor, so manufacturing engineering supervisor, and so supervised salary people for the first time, and was the first time I had the opportunity to help develop people like me, right, and have conversations like this with them, right, like as people were coming out of college, and help them on board at Deere. Okay, so from there, I got pulled back into product development, and I did not want to go. And I tell people I was kind of drug kicking and screaming into that job. I didn't want to leave the factory. I loved my job in the factory. And they said, we really want you to go and help lead this new product development team. So, and I tell people it was the best job I never wanted. It was the first time in my life where I had to lead a team of people that weren't all like me, right? I think you can tell by now I talk very fast, and I think and talk at the pace of the factory, right? So I identify and work really well with people from the factory because they think and talk like I do. And now I was leading a team that had a product design guy, a customer support guy, a marketing guy, supply management guy, and all of these people from different backgrounds. And I used to tell the marketing guy, man, you think in color and I think in black and white. It took me a long time to figure out how to work together and how to get that team to work together, because they all came from different backgrounds and had different experiences, and became just a great and fun challenge for me to figure out how to get the team to come to consensus on decisions, how to motivate them all differently, and really, I think, found a bit of a calling for leadership in that role to lead these cross-functional teams to great outcomes. I think this is also the first time that I had to deliver bad news early, and I had a great vice president at the time that just encouraged me, Mary Pat, through this product development process. Not everything's going to go right. If everything goes right through the whole process, we're not doing it right because we're not going fast enough. If we're not taking some risk, so expect that things are going to go wrong, and when they go wrong, make sure everybody knows, because the best medicine for problems is sunshine, right? By helping people, letting people know that you have a problem, and they can come in and they can help you solve it, right? But if you just try and keep it undercover and not tell anyone, it's gonna go bad, and that's gonna look worse for you than if you just would tell people up front, hey, we got this challenge. So that was a great learning for me. And then I think at the time, I had up to this point, kind of struggled with the idea of being a business leader, right? And even when I was deciding which master's to get, I told you it was either an engineering master's or an MBA. And I wasn't quite ready to let go of being an engineer. I kind of thought, MBAs are for bankers and greedy people, right? I'm an engineer. I work. And so, I didn't really value business leadership. And we had a wonderful CEO. His name is Bob Lane. And right as he was retiring, he gave a commencement address to Dartmouth College. And in that, and then he sent it to all the employees at Deere. And it was really well done. And he talked there about the higher calling of business leadership, right? And he said business leadership is really about collaboration, working together. It's about serving your customers, and it's about having a high level of integrity. And this idea of serving your customers, he said, and think about your customers not just as the people that buy your products, but the communities that you serve and the growing and developing nations. And he said, as business leaders, we have an opportunity to help our communities thrive, right, by providing a good economic tax base, right? I hadn't really thought about it that way before. So, right about that time that came out, what my boss at the time was like, okay, your engineering degree, that was fine. You really need to go back and get an MBA. And I'd been pretty resistant, but when this Bob Lane sent this out, I said, okay, I'm going to go for it. So I went at that point to Duke and got an MBA. So a lot of people ask me, okay, you went to Duke, you went to Minnesota, you went to Wisconsin. Who do you cheer for? Still the Badgers, right? So, okay. Okay, so from there, I left Waterloo after 13 years. So it was 13 years in Waterloo, and I left and went to Moline, Illinois, and worked on combines. And so I was a global manufacturing engineering manager. So I had responsibility for the manufacturing engineers in East Moline, but also in Zweibrücken, Germany, in Domodedovo, Russia, in two factories in China, one in India, and one in Brazil. So for the first time in my life, I was traveling a lot. Like I hadn't really traveled, I traveled maybe once or twice a year prior to that point. I was traveling a lot. So Derek's probably getting a little PTSD talking about this time period. We had 2 little kids at home, and I was once a month on the road to one of those places. And it was super challenging. And I remember at one point, Fritz, he just got up back there, he asked me when I came home, "Hey, Mama, can I come to your house?" And I said, "Wait, what do you mean? This is my house." He said, "No, your house in China." And I said, "Oh, this is hard." I loved it. I loved being able to go to all of these different factories. I loved being able to meet the people, try the food, the culture, all of that kind of stuff. It was great. It was super hard to be gone that much for me. And it was hard for Derek because he was home alone with these, 2 little kids. They were 4 and 2 at the time, all by himself a lot of the time. So loved the job, but felt like I couldn't do it forever. So at that time, I guess a couple of things. So one, getting comfortable not knowing. So I think that's just, I told you when I started at Deere, I didn't know the people, didn't know the products, didn't know the customers, didn't know anything. And then after 13 years in Waterloo, I was amazed how much I learned by osmosis. And I didn't really realize it until I left there. But the 8R tractor is one of our bigger tractors in Waterloo. I could have built that tractor myself when I left, right? I knew which hydraulic pump went on which model. I knew what supplier provided it. I knew the designer that designed it. I knew the assembler that put it on. Right, I could have figured out how to build that tractor myself. And then to go to work on combines where I didn't know anybody. Right, I didn't know. I didn't know what a shoe was. I didn't know anything about combines. I didn't know any of the people, and that was super uncomfortable for me to not have that kind of detailed, intimate knowledge of the machine. And so it was good for me to get comfortable learning how to operate in my job without knowing that level of detail, which for engineers is really hard to do. But I can tell you all of you are going to have to do that probably at some point in your career. So that was a hard lesson for me, and I don't know that I have any advice for you other than you're just going to have to figure it out. Okay. So then, I call this living the dream. So I was back in the factory as a factory manager. It was, from the time I left the factory, I said, man, my ultimate goal would be to be a factory manager. If I could ever be a factory manager, that would be the bomb. So, I was in that job in combines for a couple of years and then, was blessed with the opportunity to go to Augusta, Georgia and manage a factory for the first time. So that factory builds compact utility tractors and high volume assembly only machine, and it was a fantastic job. And I told you, I think I think that's where I first came to realize what my true passion is, which is just the responsibility I have to the workforce and the communities that we live in, and to understand that my role. To be honest with you, I'm not all that motivated by just making money for money's sake, right? But if I understand that our ability to make money, make a profit in an efficient manner means our competitiveness, and that means that I get to retain jobs in my factory, that's motivational to me, right? So that having that responsibility to the team to maintain our competitiveness really became something that fuels me to this day, and I developed that in Augusta. Community responsibility, so Augusta, kind of a satellite factory for Deere, and I was, the main person there for Deere, and so for the first time got to serve on several boards. So I served on a board for the United Way, I served on a board for the Georgia Association of Manufacturers, and just that ability to have a presence in the community, know more about where I work than just my factory, and understand how we intertwine with the rest of the community, and then give back to the community was a cool part of my job. I told you, not all that motivated by money for money's sake, but certainly motivated by the financials when it comes to understanding our competitiveness compared to other factories. And so had to learn in detail the financials. Probably for the first time in my career, I had to really understand the financials. Diversity and inclusion. So, most of John Deere factories are in pretty rural Iowa areas, right? And not very diverse communities. Augusta is different. So Augusta is 60% African American on the shop floor, 30% African American in the office. For the first time in my life, I was a minority in a lot of cases, and just had to get comfortable with that. Had to get comfortable talking about it, and it was just a great experience for me to get comfortable with that. And then we had this critical initiative to gain market share. So most of our John Deere ag factories tend to lead in market share. We have very, very good products. We've been around for a long time, and we do very well. Not in the small tractor segment. We were still growing there, and so we're fighting neck and neck with Kubota for market share. Super fun, right? Just super fun to be part of a business where we were kind of fighting for market share, where I kind of cared about what ads they were placing during the basketball tournament on TV, and all of that kind of stuff, because it was really great to get out, work with the dealers, understand what we could do to help them sell more products, and to be a part of that was pretty fun. Okay, and then up to my current job, which I told you a lot about already, what we do at Davenport Works. So here, working in Davenport, my first time on construction and forestry. I love it. I love the ag side too, but really love this business. I have a lot of kinship with my customers, so we have the same types of challenges. We want to keep our people safe. We want to attract more people into our industry. We want to do a quality job for our customers. We want to do it in an efficient way, right? So, and we want to be competitive. So I think that's been a great learning for me in this job. It's been super challenging last couple of years. So leading through COVID-19, I'm grateful I had the experience. I don't want to do it again, but it was a really good experience. I think we also had a UAW strike in the last 3 years, which was super challenging. I learned a lot. Don't want to do that again either. But really challenging time the last couple of years, and then supply-based challenges since COVID's definitely getting better, but was a super challenging time. And then I think the other thing, this slide kind of speaks a bit to the Deere culture. During COVID-19, when it was really difficult in the beginning, we were declared essential workers, so we kept coming to work. Work from home has never been a thing for me. And in the beginning, we were like, should we really be here? Should we not be here? I don't know. And then the government declared us essential, and we said, okay, we're coming to work. And, my sales and marketing counterpart said, hey, Mary Pat, how can we help you? And I said, hey, just keep telling me that it matters, right? Give me, anecdotes from the dealer or whoever that us continuing to work and get products to our customers that is helping, that is making a difference. And so he would send me once a week, okay, this dealer is going to, with your products to help, construct this hospital wing to help with COVID, right? Or this dealer, is going to help this customer stay in business because you're going to deliver the product this week. So super motivational, just awesome teamwork from my sales and marketing colleagues. And then one day this showed up in some advertisements for us, and they did this really cool photo of our products in the shape of a heart for one of the COVID hearts. They did it for our customers, but they did it for us in the factories too, right? So I think just speaks to the culture that we have at Deere. Collaboration is a big deal at Deere. I feel super grateful to work there, and I always feel like I'm on a team, and I don't feel like somebody's trying to outdo me or outcompete me, right? Everybody's trying to work together for our mutual success. So, okay, so that was a lot, and I did use just about the whole hour, but I got time for questions. Okay, so the question was, as a student, what do I wish I would have done, or maybe what, and also what I wish I would have done, or something I'm glad I did, right? So, yeah, I think certainly glad that I was a part of ASABE. Taking stuff that, I just went along and did, but ended up being very impactful, like that John Deere tour, right? I would say, I didn't know I was really going to fall in love with manufacturing kind of at that time, but it did. And I think just getting involved and trying new things, even if you don't really know why you're doing it, that's what you're supposed to do as a student. Just try and learn as much as you possibly can. And sometimes you find out things that you didn't intend to find out, right? And so maybe something I wish I would have done that I didn't do. I wish I would have interned, right? I didn't intern anywhere. Like that wasn't a thing when I was in college. As much it was, but it wasn't as widely available. If you got the opportunity to do it, right? And if for no other reason than to say, I never want to do that again. It's as much about crossing stuff off your list as it is about figuring out where you do want to work. So, I know at Deere we have some incentives for you to stay with us, but I would encourage you to intern with as many different places as you can. Oh boy, favorite John Deere product. So this can't leave this room, right? I don't know. I have too many favorites. I don't know. The motor graders are pretty cool, especially with the technology that we have on them. They're pretty dang cool.